Welcome back to the 9th Gym program, and today we're pretty much doing a team build and battle, but we already have the team built to some extent. We're just going to fill it out real quick, but as you can see here, this is a very Series 5 team. This guy's banned, this guy's banned, this guy's banned, this guy's banned, and this guy is banned. Mugus is the sole survivor of Series 6, and yeah. As you can obviously see here, it's Players Cup 2 Series 5 prep. So this is a very common team and a very common core. You'll see these two Pokemon on a lot of teams. You'll see these two Pokemon on a lot of teams. You'll see this guy on a lot of teams, this guy on a lot of teams, and this guy on a fair bit of teams as well. So let's talk about this core very, very briefly, because I've talked about this core very many times, and I actually have made a team or not a team build and battle. I've done a battle video of this exact team, and we're gonna change some spreads. We're gonna look at some spreads. Before it was a rental code that I used. We're gonna do some calcs for some of these Pokemon. Try to make them as relevant as possible with Series 6, and we're gonna do a little bit of calcing and stuff and building up this team. So yes, that is what we're doing today. So let's go ahead and fill it out a little. So we have Fly. Yep. Dragon Darts. Dual Stab. This is Dragon Dancer. It's actually Darts. Fly. Giving you that max Airstream. Very, very powerful. Dragon Darts. Phantom Force. Dual Stab. And then Protect. So this is a very basic spread for Dragapult. You'll slap a Life Orb on it. Give it Clear Body so it can't get intimidated. And then max your speed out completely, and then you're maxing the attack, putting 4 into here because we're Dynamaxing this Pokemon a lot of the time. This is exactly what you'll expect to see a lot of Dragapults using. Now they can do a couple of different things. They can do like Steel Wing here. They could use as a fire attack. It could be special attacking. This is what you're probably gonna see though, is this exact set most of the time. Now Togekiss has two different ways of play, really 3 different ways of play, but really 2 big different ways of play, which is Scope Lens Aggressor, or Babbery Berry supportive role, typically having Yawn on the set and stuff like that. We're going to be doing this as our set here today. Follow me. Protect, because I like Protect on this Pokemon a lot, and I started to like it a lot right before it got banned. We started using Protect on it a lot, and I think it's good. Togekiss, Scope Lens, Super Luck, Dual Stab, once again, Dazzling Gleam, Air Slash. This way you have max Airstream if you choose to Dynamax it, or max Starfall as well. But you also have the very, very powerful max Airstream from Dragapult, as well as Dazzling Gleam. Now, I'm not going to sit here and explain Togekiss Dragapult, because you can click on that right above me, that little card, and it'll show you right to the video that I did that explained this combo in depth. Dragapult and Togekiss, because it is a very, very strong thing, something that you should definitely be aware of going into the Players Cup, because it's very, very strong. Now, this is the build for Togekiss that we're going to be using in this exact video. Is Dragapult, Togekiss, both are just going to be max on speed and their respective attack, this one being special and Dragapult being physical. Just because you have the very, very oppressive combo of max Airstream from the Dragapult, making your Togekiss faster once again as well, and then doing Dazzling Gleam. You can target down things that have Focus Sash, and just hit them with this, and then hit them with Dazzling Gleam. It's a dead boy. You can hit, very, very hard, just very, very strong. It's very strong. That's what I'm saying. So Tyranitar Excadrill is the next little combo we're going to look at. So as you can see, we have the Dragapult Togekiss. The most common core for VGC 2020 pre-series 6 without the bans was Togekiss, Excadrill, Dragapult. Now this becomes the TED core, something that I think from in the future will be referred to as the TED core. We've seen a lot of cores that have abbreviations that we've seen a lot in the past, a lot of them. So yeah, Togekiss, Excadrill, Dragapult makes a lot of sense. It provides a Fairy Steel Dragon core, which is very good. It's good. It's just good, is what I'm saying. Run this guy with Focus Sash, Sand Rush, and then damage dealing moves, whether it's Iron Head, well, Dual Stab, of course. So that plus high horsepower. You could even go with Earthquake on this set as well. but we're not going to be. We're going with Iron Head, high horsepower, and then you could go with Rock Slide, you could go with Swords Dance, and then the last one should be Protect. You know, a very protective team. This is going to have Protect as well, and this will have Protect as well. So you'll have 5 Protects, which is good. Very good. This should probably be Swords Dance, just because then you can lead that Togekiss Excadrill, which is really good. Applies a lot of pressure, setting up Swords Dance, and then next turn you Dynamax. If they don't hit you with a Dynamax, that was weird how I said Dynamax. Anyway, if they don't hit you with a multi-targeting move, then Focus Sash will stay intact, and then when you Dynamax next turn, you have a +2 max moves, which is very good. Makes your Togekiss more bulky with, you know, max of these 2 attacks. However, follow meing turn 1 with Swords Dance, probably the Togekiss will faint, but not always. Here, we're going to go with, this is a very aggressive team. It's a hyper offense team. It's something that you'll see pretty commonly. You know, 4 offensive Pokemon, 2 defensive Pokemon, but, you know, Incineroar does damage as well, and Amoonguss applies pressure in its own way of Spore, which is a very, very, you know, obviously very strong kind of thing. Anyway, we are going with Jolly Nature here as well, just because we want to be as fast as possible. Pretty much the exact same spreads here. Now, this can be pretty customizable as well. You could even make like an Assault Vest or like a Weakness Policy set. You could even go Life Orb, but Dragapult really wants Life Orb, so probably not going to go for that there. But yeah, this is what we're going with. It's pretty standard. This is not going to change unless you're going for a Weakness Policy or an AV set. Otherwise, this is pretty standard in general here. Next, we have Tyranitar. Of course, Sandstream, you know, that's a signature ability, especially when we pair it with Sandrush Excadrill. We are going to be using Weakness Policy. Pretty standard stuff here. The whole team is going to be very, very standard. This is just something that you'll see a lot in the Players' Cup too, a lot during the Players' Cup. And for good reason. It's very, very strong. It's a hyper offense team, and I think VGC 2020 pre-Series 6 is just a very hyper offense meta, and that's why things like PZ and Talonflame, PZ, Talonflame, PZ, Clef, stuff has been so common in this meta, because I think a lot of players that were playing teams like this that were hyper offense kind of were glued to hyper offense, and now just don't really want to change to a different kind of play style, and stayed with PZ, Clef, PZ, Talonflame. I know that's why I gravitated towards PZ during the early meta of Series 5, but yeah, I went off on a tangent there, but yeah, Tyranitar, let's go ahead and fill this set out a little bit more. We have Rock Slide, of course. You know, Lash Out in case you get intimidated becomes unbelievably strong. You know, of course you lose a little bit of your attack, but then Lash Out goes to double attack. It's Stab, does a lot of damage turn 0, turn 1. Turn 0 is a card game term. That's why I say that. But yeah, Rock Slide, Lash Out. We usually will be seeing Superpower on this. There are a couple of other moves that you could use. I even saw a Iron Head max steel spiking Tyranitar a couple of times, which was interesting. I've seen a mixed Tyranitar before in case it gets intimidated. Now we have Lash Out for in case it gets intimidated, but still something that is cool that we've seen. You know, it's neat, it's nifty. Anyway, last move here is going to be Protect. Not really too much here to explain. We go for 252 here, 252 here, and then 4 defense. Now, none of this is very non-standard. It's all very standard. This is exactly what you'll see a lot of the time, just 252 HP, 252 attack, and then 4 into defense. We want to max out on our attack since this is going to be a pretty common Dynamaxing Pokemon, and then it's also going to, of course, you know, once a lot of HP so the Weakness Policy can proc pretty safely. This is not a team that we commonly will carry something like Bulldoze on, so yeah, you're not going to be proccing your own Weakness Policy very frequently with Tyranitar. You're pretty much banking on the fact that you Dynamax, and then you're going to take a lot of damage, and then activate your Weakness Policy, which is very good. Yeah, obviously fighting is really strong against this Pokemon, but we do have Togekiss, which is really good, threatens it a lot. The Togekiss is the main reason we've seen things like Conkeldurr go down in play. Of course, we still have Urshifu, which is a pretty commonly played Pokemon in the meta. Very common in Series 6, but with Series 5, will definitely be toned down just a bit. Maybe not an insane amount, but will definitely be toned down. Now, all of this is incredibly standard. There is nothing here that you'll see and be like, weird, why is he playing that? No. They're all very standard, exactly what you'll expect on this kind of team, almost exactly. Now, obviously, like I said, there's a couple of weird things. This could be defensive, go with Yawn. something like that. You know, we also have Dragapult, which could have a couple of weird moves, but not likely. Steel Spike is the most likely, non-likely attack, but yeah, I'm not expecting to see that very frequently. I think this is a very, very common set here. Yeah, all of it's very common. Excadrill could use a different item as well. Tyranitar, not really. You're not going to see that very frequently. So let's explain why this is really strong. First off, Hyper Offense is really good. It provides two really, really strong leads, whether it's Excadrill Tyranitar, which is really, really weak to Intimidate. Essentially, if your opponent has Incineroar on their team and they see this is on your team, they're going to bring it, no matter what. And yeah, that's fine because it doesn't affect this lead. So if you are afraid of Incineroar just leading, you just lead Dragapult Togekiss. Now, obviously, there's other things. There are leads that Togekiss, Dragapult don't deal with that well. Things like Whimsicott, Duraludon. It can have a hard time with Syndrase. And yeah, not too hard of a time with Syndrase because you do max and, you know, outspeed. And then you go for a max Airstream with that, and then Togekiss goes for Dazzling Gleam. But of course, if it's like Cinderace Whimsicott, which is the most common lead for Cinderace, it can set up Tailwind and then do huge damage to one of these two, probably killing the Togekiss, making it so the Dragapult's the only thing that attacks. Max Airstream will then do no damage to the now Steel-type Cinderace, in which case it can become a problem. And then if you max Airstream into the Whimsicott, it's going to have Sash, so you effectively lose your Togekiss. You didn't get really much value out of Dynamaxing early, and now your opponent has a very, very pressuring board of Tailwinded Cinderace. And then, yeah, of course, you can bring in Incineroar and then, you know, intimidate them, which is really strong. But, yeah, you don't want to do that into Cinderace. Cinderace is not a lead that you want this, really. However, Cinderace is a lead where you want, like, Togekiss and Incineroar, which is good. We can actually, you know what, we'll go ahead and talk about matchups right now. So I was going to leave that for later in the video after we make spreads for Incineroar and Amogus, but we'll go ahead and talk about matchups right now for the hyper offensive Sand Core. Now, or the Sand team. Hyper offense, Sand, Dragapult, Ted Core team. It's very strong. So, matchups. First off, Togekiss Dragapult on the other side. Now, that's something that's kind of scary. Excadrill Tyranitar can be good. Togekiss Tyranitar can be very, very strong. However, Dazzling Gleam is putting on a lot of pressure onto your Tyranitar, so maybe bringing Incineroar there also, not to not take that much damage from either of those Pokemon. I mean, obviously Wormwind's good because it lowers your attack and then you don't have that much offensive pressure, and Fake Out's not doing a lot turn 1 because they can just max the Togekiss as well. So, you know, what's the best play there? Another really good little call out from the Dragapult Togekiss mirror is bringing your own Togekiss Dragapult mirror, and now you can flip the coin to see who outspeeds, and you can go for max Airstream, then turn 1 into Togekiss or Dragapult, probably into Dragapult. You attack into Dragapult with that and then Dazzling Gleam. That should take out their opposing Dragapult, the two. Actually, I'd like to run a calc for that real quick. We have our damage calc in the other window, so let's go ahead and look at that really quick. So as we see here, we have max Airstream from our Dragapult into their Dragapult 4 HP. We are Life Orb, max invested Life Orb, max Airstream off of the root move Fly into their 4 HP Dragapult, but it is Dynamax. This is a Dynamax Calc, as you can see, right? It's behind me, just take my word for it. And yeah, it's a guaranteed 3 echo, hitting 35 to 41%, which is a lot of damage. But the real damage here is going to be from Togekiss, and let's go ahead and run that calc real quick as well. So we have Dazzling Gleam here from our 252 special attacking boy into their Dragapult 4 HP and its Dynamax, hitting around the same number, hitting 37 to 44, which is a guaranteed 3-hit KO. Now, looking at those numbers, we are not taking that knockout turn 1 from a max Airstream and a Togekiss Dazzling Gleam. Now, of course, there are a couple of hitches in the road. We have Crit Kiss, that can do a lot of damage here, hitting 56. The other one was about 33 at lowest, so that's hitting, you know, a pretty high roll at knocking it out. If either of them get a mid-roll or if they both get a mid roll or one gets a high roll, then you are knocking it out, as they run about 10%, and we have about an 85% at that, or an 89% at that chance. So if you had a crit, but like that's not really good, because then you have to do a coin flip first off, because critical hit comes about 50% of the time, and then you also have to, of course, you know, hit high rolls, which is never reliable. So what I'm saying is pretty much you don't target down the Dragapult with that exact move. Now, if you want to go for the other route, like I said, you know, our damage output is going to be similar to their damage output if they lead Togekiss Dragapult into our Togekiss Dragapult, as typically they'll be running the same set. So you do have your chance at outspeeding. Now, coin flip for speed ties. Now, of course, Dragapult is going to be Jolly, max speed, which gives it its most speedy way of play, right? So we have a 50% chance because it's a speed tie. Dragapult v Dragapult is going to be speed tying 100% of the time. I guess 99% of the time, because there's a chance they go for like Adamant or something like that. It's so unrealistic that they'll do that, to the point where we're not even going to consider it. Pretty much what I'm saying here is you fight down the Togekiss. Now let's look at a couple of calcs here for this. Now this is a pretty easy one to do right now. We usually will be seeing the 4 HP spread, non-Dynamaxing turn 1. Now Dragapult with a Max Phantasm hits really hard into Togekiss, but it also hits pretty equivalent to their own Dragapult. So this is where it becomes a real big toss-up, right? If they max, you're still hitting a knockout. Look at this, Calc. So we have Dragapult Max Phantasm, Life Orb Max Phantasm, into a 4 HP Dragapult. Now this is Dynamax, as you can see right here. I'm not covering it. It is at 328, 100%. It is Dynamax. Now if we turn off the Dynamax, we're hitting 1,000,000 damage. Turn it on, and then boom. You have 105 to 124%. That is a guaranteed OHKO of Max Phantasm with Life Orb into their own Dynamaxed Dragapult. So this kind of throws a hitch in the road. Now, we have to use Follow Me. So now we have to follow me with Max Phantasm into the Togekiss, essentially, because they're going to follow me as well. So, follow me, Togekiss. Togekiss. If you have 0 investment here, you have 4 investment, no defense, no Dynamax. We are not hitting a knockout. This is bold. Let's go to timid. We are hitting a knockout sometimes. You have to get an insanely high roll, about a third of the time, which is not reliable at all. But this is something that will probably happen. Now they could call it out. They could go for a Max Guard and then Dazzling Gleam, and then the next turn they guaranteed have your Togekiss beat. So that's another way of play. Togekiss Dragapult Mirror is ridiculous. It's a coin flip. It's very hard to play. Now obviously you can minimize all these odds by doing the correct play. You can go for a Protect and then switch around, put on something that doesn't really have or doesn't really get pressured at all by Dragapult. You could go with a Koba Berry and Moonkiss. That could be a great switch. Now they're probably going to go for a Max Airstream into your Dragapult. Now let's look at that calc real quick. Max Airstream into a 4 HP defense or 4 HP 0 defense Togekiss is 59 to 70%, which is a guaranteed 2-hit KO. Even after a Citrus Berry, they're never going to have a Citrus Berry, as we can see here. Let's get rid of that. Anyway, so we are hitting a guaranteed knockout, but here's where the notch is then put into play. Look at this. If they randomly, not very randomly, I feel like it's probably about a 50-50 split, or at least like a little bit in favor of Scope Lens offensive. There is a good chance that they have investment here. And even at a kind of weird thing here, this is just like the pretty common spread here that they gave us. Our Max Airstream from Life Orb is only doing less than that, giving us a very small chance of a 2-hit KO. Now, if that is the case, and we Max Airstream, they Max Airstream, then it's once again practically a coin flip the next turn. However, if you are running the Max speed and max special attacking Togekiss, now you are losing that game. Now you are your opponent is in favor of winning that matchup, that mirror match scenario. Very bad. It's not what you want to see. Now, let's think about what we can do to patch up that matchup. Well, that's where Sand comes in. Sand is very strong against Togekiss Dragapult. They don't pressure you that much. Dragapult, yeah, of course, these two moves hit hard. Max Phantasm and Max Dragon, Max Wormwind, they both hit hard, obviously. Now, Max Wormwind is very strong against that core because it lowers both of their attacks. What do you do then? That's not good. That's not good at all. Well, Excadrill doubles in speed with Sandrush, so you will be able to take out that Togekiss with an Iron Head or something of the sort. Iron Head might not actually be enough. Let's go ahead and look at a Calc real quick. Oh, and let me say something real quick. There's a good chance you're not going to want to run a Jolly. You may want to run Adamant if you're going for the Sandrush build, just so that you can get a little bit more damage. We'll look at a Calc real quick to see if Adamant is needed, but yeah. So let's look at the calcs real quick. Okay, so here we have a 252. This is Adamant Excadrill with Iron Head into a 236 HP, 60 plus defense Togekiss. So this is the defensive build. It's not Dynamax, as you can see. We have a 25% chance to get a code from a Flamethrower. That's not what we were trying to look at. Iron Head. We have about 72 to 86%, which is not a lot of damage. Or it's a lot of damage, of course. It's a lot of damage, but it's not enough because we need that Oko. So if we go to 4 and 0 and not bold, then we are pushing into a guaranteed Oko. Look at this calc, it's perfect. 252 plus, that's being that adamant nature. Iron Head into 4 HP and 0 defense, Togekiss. We have 100 to 119, guaranteed. Now, that is perfect. That is a perfect calc for this scenario. So we could go with Excadrill Tyranitar as a lead here, but then of course if they bring something else, they go for an Incineroar, they go for they go for Incineroar. It's a little weird of a position, right? So that is a way to win this mirror match. This mirror match is something you're going to see a lot if you tend to play this. Honestly, this is one of the teams that is one of the main contenders that I'm going to be bringing to the Players Cup 2 qualifiers, just because I think it's really strong in best of 1. It's very, very strong to run away with games with this with this team, just because it's so well balanced. It's very, very strong. It's a hyper offense team, but the two supportive Pokemon are just very, very strong. So, in sum up, Ted v Ted, the mirror match for the Ted core is bad. It's a bad matchup. It's a really, really skill-intensive matchup, and if you haven't played it countless times, it's going to be hard, and they're going to be it's going to be a very, very hard matchup. Luckily for a lot of players, they did bring this set a lot. This was a very, very common core, whether it's just these 3, Tyranitar, and then these, whatever way of play, it's these 3 have been on countless teams for Series 5. So pretty much what I'm saying is don't bring this exact, like, these 4 with whatever the last 2 Pokemon are. It's usually going to be Incineroar and Amogus, or Incineroar and, like, Rillaboom or something. Don't bring these 4 if you don't feel confident. If you don't want to be playing a lot of testing between these next week and a half, or have tested a lot in Series 5 with it, don't bring it. That's my honest opinion. I think it's a pretty hard matchup. A pretty hard mirror match that's very skill intensive and takes a lot of testing to feel comfortable with it. Now, of course, if you expect this to come out, you bring Incineroar and you're like, okay, cool. But then if they lead Dragapult Togekiss, you're like, okay, we'll fake out your Togekiss, and then they max the Togekiss and you're like, and then it's a bad time for best of 1. In a best of 1 format, I'd probably just bring, if you're not comfortable, I would just bring, like, a good team that does one thing most of the time. I'm looking at Syndrase. I'm saying bring a Wimscott Syndrase team. Obviously, you're going to run into mirror matches of that as well. So I'm not saying that's easy to play, but I'm saying it's easier to play than mirror matches of this. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, next matchup. we have Wimscott Syndrase. Like I was saying, this is a good matchup for you most of the time. You know, you have Incineroar to lay down and Intimidate immediately, which is good. A lot of the time, Syndrase will be accompanied by a Bisharp kind of Pokemon. Maybe competitive Milotic, maybe even Braviary, Defiant Braviary. There's a lot of options, and Defiant Bisharp is of course an option too, although that's been kind of taken a little bit more of the game in Series 6, but I still think it's good. Life Orb Cinderace next to a Focus Sash Bisharp I think is pretty good. You know, if they go for that Intimidate, Bisharp Lash Out does so much damage after Defiant. It's so much damage. It's doubled while also being 1.5 damage. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of damage. So, you know, I think my ideal setup here against a non-Defiant, just like a Cinderace Whimsicott, or like a Whimsicott, yeah, like a Cinderace Whimsicott, Togekiss Incineroar is very, very strong. Now, of course, a lot of Whimsicott teams will be paired with another good Whimsicott Pokemon, something like maybe like Duraludon, in which case Dragapult has a hard time. That's a really weird core, right? Duraludon, Whimsicott, and Cinderace. If you expect the Cinderace to come out, boom, pretty good. Now, you expect the Duraludon to come out, not this guy. It's bad. Now, if they don't have to Intimidate, boom. Boom. Really, really strong. This is insane against Cinderace. Even if it Dynamaxes, we do a lot of damage, which is very good, especially if you're, you know, Adamant Nature, which is very strong. Amoonguss and Incineroar are kind of here for support. Incineroar Fake Out is very, very strong. And, of course, I mean, it's Whimsicott. You go for a Fake Out and then you max Airstream into the Whimsicott. They don't get Tailwind. Now you have this in the back to just be the late game aggressor, which is very, very strong. You can bring in one of these two when Incineroar goes down because they're probably going to be taking this out so you can't cycle Intimidate and Fake Out. In which case, Togekiss then gets to boost one of these two, their speed, which is very strong. You don't even have to bring Tyranitar because Excadrill will then be faster than the faster than everything, pretty much after +1 speed. So that's very strong. The Cinderace matchup is a matchup I don't feel terrible about. I don't feel great about. It's never been, you know, something that we just win. It's hard. It's hard. Definitely a hard matchup. Next, let's look at some other matchups. Let's just go to Pikalytics real quick and then just look at some of this stuff, right? All right, so Togekiss. The Togekiss matchup is fine. You Dynamax your own guy, which is cool. You know, Excadrill Tyranitar can be really strong in this matchup. Incineroar is not that great. Amoonguss is not that great unless it's Cobra Berry, but if you have Cobra Berry, Amoonguss, Spore can be really, really strong. And since we have Focus Sash already spoken for on this team, I think it's really, you know, a berry to Amoonguss. Whether that's, you know, a Pinch Berry, Cobra Berry, maybe even Aka Berry, you have options, is what I'm saying. So, you know, Togekiss, like, standalone is not that bad of a matchup, but it's really more so what's next to it, right? You know, Togekiss, Cinderace can be hard. You have Follow Me plus just huge pressure, huge damage from Cinderace. Then you bring in Incineroar, but then if it catches it with Defiant or Competitive, something like that, it can be a hard matchup. Next, we'll look at Incineroar. So Incineroar, obviously, Dragapult, Togekiss don't really care about that. Amoonguss doesn't really care about that. Excadrill, Tyranitar, of course, care about that. And if their team is weak to Sand and they have Incineroar against our team, they're going to be bringing it every time, right? So you don't really want to bring Excadrill, Tyranitar, even though on paper, against a Fire Cat Pokemon, these Pokemon kind of destroy them. And even after an Intimidate, they're not that bad. And if you max Tyranitar, you can cycle that or you can keep going with that max Knuckle to take away that Intimidate every turn. And then they're going to be parting shotting, sure. But if they start taking out Tyranitar with that and then cycle Intimidate every turn and Fake Out into the Excadrill, it can be a little rough. So Incineroar is not a great matchup, but like I said, Dragapult, Togekiss don't really care about it. So that's kind of what you go for. Rillaboom, it's another standalone Pokemon. It's another Pokemon that can put on a lot of pressure. It has access to Superpower, right? Is it Superpower? Yeah, it has access to Superpower, which does a lot of damage to Tyranitar. Not to mention Grassy Glide, which like 100%. It says 98, but I think that's just because like some people in here don't know. But yeah, it's Grassy Glide is on 100%, and Grassy Glide is very, very strong. It puts on a lot of pressure towards Tyranitar, which is annoying. but it's good. And then, of course, Fake Out. Cycling Fake Out is really good. You have Grassy Glide, which is really good. Wood Hammer does a lot of damage to a lot of Pokemon in the meta. Turning off Water-type Pokemon, like, they don't exist in this meta. You have U-Turn, which is an option, High Horsepower, Knockoff. Knockoff can be good, not really against our Pokemon, because, like, Superpower, if it has Superpower, it just knocks out Tyranitar right off the bat. As you can see here, Choice Band or Assault Vest are neck and neck for most used things. Choice Band, Grassy Glide is going to do a huge chunk to our Tyranitar, which is just crazy. And this, Incineroar plus Rillaboom is everywhere. This is what we're going to be seeing most of the time on, like, random back Pokemon a lot of the time. And that duo is really, really strong against Sand. And yeah, but Dragapult Togekiss, once again, deals with Rillaboom pretty well, deals with Incineroar pretty well. So yeah, Dragapult Togekiss is very strong. Dragapult matchup we already talked about. Tyranitar, the Sand Mirror is pretty weird. If they don't play the Dragapult Togekiss, you know what? Togekiss Tyranitar is very strong. Follow me, plus just putting on pressure with Togekiss or Tyranitar. It's very strong. You have Togekiss, you have a Moongus, so that can be really strong in this matchup as well. Not taking much damage from Tyranitar or Excadrill, really, for that matter. It can be good. You can put on you can apply a lot of pressure with this, which is really good in the mirror match, which is really good. Amoonguss works really well. Amoonguss is really strong in Trick Room matchups as well. We'll talk about that a little bit more once we see a Trick Room Pokemon in here, which is going to be Dusclops, not very far from here. Amoonguss, there's not a lot that I can say for Amoonguss. With this core, is kind of rough. We have no Taunt, which sucks. We have no Electric Terrain, which sucks. There's no Safety Goggles on our team currently. Maybe Incineroar wants that. Maybe Togekiss wants it, but Scope Lens, like Aggressor, is really what you need. And, you can, like, double in, which is really good. You can max Airstream from Dragapult and then Togekiss Dazzling Gleam, which is probably going to take down Amoonguss. But if it's Cobra Berry, it's not going to take too much damage. And as we can see here, Cobra Berry is the most used attack for this Pokemon. I said attack. Most used item, and if I can click on it, or Focus Sash, which either way, they're kind of putting in a lot of work against the Dragapult Togekiss engine. So yeah, that's pretty good. Incineroar does a lot of damage with Flare Blitz, but not enough, especially after an Intimidate or a Whirlwind, which a lot of the time Amoonguss will be paired with one of those, attacking Pokemon. So yeah, Amoonguss is a pretty rough matchup. You'll have a hard time with Amoonguss sometime, especially if it's paired with Trick Room. And if they have Trick Room and Amoonguss, that's probably the worst matchup for this team, to be honest. Next, we'll look at the Sun Core. So Sun Core is pretty hard. You have to keep up with the Weather Wars, which is really hard if you bring that core. Now, if you lead Dragapult Togekiss, bring Tyranitar in the back, there's really no... It's rough. That's a rough matchup as well, because if they lead something like Venusaur Charizard, which is going to be a very common lead for that core, they're going to be like, okay, well, what do we do here? Bring Torkoal in, and then you have Venusaur, probably Sleep Powder, one of the Pokemon that you think is going to max. Excadrill and Tyranitar, neither of them really put much pressure in towards Venusaur, so that's kind of bad. Another really cool thing that you can do, especially in this matchup, is follow me with Togekiss. Obviously, you're probably going to get Sleep Powdered, or just a really strong Vine Lash coming in. Either way, you're going to take a lot of damage or be statused. But then you can go for Excadrill's Swords Dance. Follow me Swords Dance, and then go +2 attack and dish out a lot of damage in the following turns with like max Steel Spikes and a Venusaur. Now, if it maxes, it'll be a hard matchup, but you'll probably live a Venusaur like a Vine Lash, but I don't know if you'll live after 2 turns of Vine Lash ticks. So yeah, that could be a really rough matchup. Venusaur, I expect to see a lot. I expect to see this Pokemon very, very commonly. It also runs Earth Power, which means a lot of the time will run Earth Power. It's actually interesting seeing this stats. 95% are running Earth Power and 99 on Sludge Powder. Sleep Powder has actually moved down really far in 40, being that G-Max Venusaur power. It just does so much damage. So it's pretty scary. I mean, even looking at the stats, 76% is using Life Orb. That used to be like 10%, 5%, and then we got G-Max, and now it's 76. Weakness Policy is number 2, which is weird. Focus Sash, I would think, is number 2. Wide Lens is all the way down here at 2.6. That's crazy. Yeah, it just goes to show how powerful G-Max Venusaur is, and that's really strong against our team. Incineroar can do a little bit, not enough though, and Amoonguss can't spore it. So yeah, that's a really rough matchup. Venusaur is definitely something that the team can struggle with. However, you know, like I was saying, Dragapult Togekiss is very strong against it, but rough. It's a rough matchup. It's definitely a rough matchup. Torkoal is the same matchup. Trick Room Torkoal is pretty annoying. Not too big of a deal though, because we have Amoonguss, you know, and well, Eruption's gonna kill it. So that can be a rough matchup too. So yeah, it's rough. That's a rough matchup. Sun is rough. Sun is a rough matchup. Now we have Dusclops. Dusclops, Trick Room. So Trick Room is another matchup that's kind of hard. Incineroar, Tyranitar are middling speed, which is pretty good. Gonna be your best friend Pokemon. But Amoonguss is the actual best friend. You don't want that thing to get taunted. If that thing gets taunted, there goes your win con. Spore under Trick Room is your win con against Trick Room. Because the most common Trick Room Pokemon are... I mean, honestly, the most common Trick Room Pokemon are not even what you would expect. They're like things like Tyranitar, Primarina, you know, Torkoal, of course. And yeah, I mean, the most common Trick Room core is going to be Venusaur, Torkoal, Trick Room Setter, which is either going to be Porygon 2 or Dusclops. And Porygon 2 is probably all the way down here. Yep, all the way down here. That's going to be a similar matchup to the Dusclops matchup. So yeah, Arcanine is similar to Incineroar. We're not going to cover that. We already covered Cinderace. The mirror match for Sun we already talked about. Grimmsnarl is annoying, like setting screens, but I don't like. I'm actually really surprised to see Grimmsnarl this high up in usage stats. It's kind of fallen off, and yeah, it's you know, it's something that I don't expect to see that frequently, but it's good. I definitely recognize that it's a good Pokemon, but yeah, I don't expect to see too much. Rapid Strike Urshifu, the water one is definitely scarier. You know, Surging Strike is really strong against Incineroar. If it's the dark one, you know, we can intimidate it once or twice, and then its close combats aren't doing that much damage to Tyranitar. Proccing your weakness policy, and then you just max it, and it's not that bad of a matchup. But Surging Strikes hits critical all the time, which means it can't get intimidated to knock out your Tyranitar or Incineroar, which is hard. It's a rough matchup, but we do have Togekiss at least to cover the matchup a little bit with really strong Max Airstream / Dazzling Gleams, which are good, or it's Max Starfall. You know, any of that kind of stuff is really strong against Urshifu, and if you need a strong single targeting attack, you just air slash it. So that's really good too. Urshifu matchup shouldn't be that hard, but Surging Strikes is a pain, definitely. And yeah, but Amoonguss can also sleep it with Spore, which is pretty good. And yeah, it's not that bad. Next, Milotic. I mean, Milotic, its most common partner is probably Cinderace that you would think. I mean, it used to be things like Durant. That's just not really a thing anymore. It's really just Milotic with Cinderace, really just to make sure that Cinderace doesn't get intimidated. To be fair, though, even if you do that, like if you lead Incineroar with Intimidate into Milotic and Cinderace, I think it might be worth it. Not always, like, because you don't want to give it a +2 into its special attack, but if it's just Muddy Water without investment, it's not going to be that scary. Like, it'll do some damage, sure. And this is doing, yeah, it probably won't have investment in its special attack, and honestly, it's just not too threatening. Like, Muddy Water does a lot of damage against Sandcore and Incineroar, sure, but Dragapult Togekiss is going to be a pretty common lead into things like, you know, like Cinderace strats, and that's not too bad of a matchup, you know, as long as we deal with the Cinderace, Muddy Waters every now and again, it shouldn't be that bad. Primarina is a little bit harder of a matchup. We Spore this thing, that's really it. You know, Primarina does kind of destroy the Sand Core, which is pretty bad, but Amoonguss deals with it pretty well. And you know, Incineroar doesn't really do much against this thing. I mean, you can like Parting Shot it a couple times. You are a little bit faster, but not much. It's not the worst matchup. Actually, wait, no, we're the same speed. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. It's a weird matchup. It's not something you want to see. But a lot of Primarina is going to be 0 speed or min speed, because they're commonly, you know, its most common partners here is like Porygon 2. So yeah, a lot of the time it's going to be like a Life Orb offensive Primarina, in which case we just Spore the thing. It's our best bet. I mean, as you can see, you know, Moonblast. Well, I guess Moonblast, like, if it maxes, it's a bit hard of a matchup. We have Togekiss Dragapult that can apply some pressure, but not enough. I guess we have like Max Phantasm, and then attack it really hard with Tyranitar Excadrill, but that can be rough. I think this is definitely going to be one of our hardest matchups as well. Luckily, Primarina is pretty low in usage stats. I mean, I think this is a bit generous. I don't think it should be this high because of Rillaboom. But I guess now we're starting to see the good water types. You know, Lapras isn't far down from there. So, yeah, it's not that bad. Terrakion beat up. I mean, we just lead follow me or like some form of redirection. If it's Whimsicott that's beating it up, then Amoonguss, of course, and you know, Togekiss can follow me, of course, as well. So if it's beat up Terrakion, we're not too worried. You know, we can deal with that pretty well. But if it's just like coaching, helping hand, supportive Terrakion that can also deal damage, we probably, it depends. Like, it can be a tough matchup sometimes, definitely. Urshifu, I mean, like I said, the Dark one, you just intimidate it a couple times, then close combat can't kill Tyranitar, and that's like not that bad of a matchup then. You also just like can apply a lot of pressure against this thing with Togekiss, which is good. Ferrothorn can be kind of difficult. We can't spore it. Incineroar obviously does some good damage, but if it's in rain, it could be pretty hard to deal with. We do have superpower from Tyranitar, so that can be good, and Max Knuckle from Tyranitar could be good as well. But I mean, that's kind of it for Ferrothorn. I'm actually pretty surprised to see this Pokemon as high in usage stats as it is, but I guess the top tier contenders are just so used that the Pokemon that are here, like in the middle, aren't too used. I mean, 10% is like pretty good, but not insane. Indeedee female, this has definitely trended down. I think a lot of people aren't using that thing right now, just because Psy-Spam isn't as strong as it was. Psy-Spam is definitely good, but with, you know, Tyranitar and Incineroar being everywhere, it's kind of hard. So, you know, if you run into Psy-Spam, you know, Tyranitar and Incineroar are your best friends. They're both on the team. I wouldn't even expect them to bring the Psy-Spam. I wouldn't even think they would bring Psy-Spam against the team with Tyranitar and Incineroar. But I mean, maybe. I have hair in my ear. It's weird. Lapras is a bit difficult of a matchup. Tyranitar takes a bit of damage, and they try to just reset the rain with Max Geysers every turn. We don't take that much damage from Lapras unless it's like Life Orb and Max Attack, which I think the most common builds are running that. Yeah, Life Orb for about 40%, which is a lot. And yeah, they're like most common builds are going to be offensive, like instead of the bulky Laprases that we've seen in the past. So yeah, that could be a rough matchup. Amoonguss does help a lot in this matchup, but it has Thunder. Or like Thunderbolt or something. It commonly will have that electric spread to set the terrain and make Amoonguss not really a deal. So that can be a rough matchup too. But yeah, Whimsicott. This is a bit hard of a matchup, but like we said, if it's you know, Wimscott Syndrase, it's pretty easy to deal with. You just keep away the Tailwind, and then late game your Excadrill is just super fast with Sandrush, so that can be really good. But then you also have you know, Whimsicott Dracovish, which can be a little bit more problematic. I mean, intimidating Dracovish is really strong, but Fish's Rend still does so much damage even after an intimidate. You can't spore it, or you can spore the Dracovish, but you can't spore Whimsicott. Whimsicott's a bit annoying, but you know, it's not too bad. You lead Incineroar plus Max Airstream into it. It's not that bad. You fake out Max Airstream. Now you have fast Pokemon. They don't have Tailwind. That can be good. And if they set up like Whimsicott with like Ally Switch or something, then whatever. Also, Whimsicott can then just go for Protect and then like switch their other guy, go for an Intimidate or whatever. Yeah, so I think Whimsicott is definitely seeing a lot of Protect nowadays. I mean, we have it right here, 33%, which is a lot for Whimsicott's Protect. So it wasn't very common for Whimsicott's to run Protect. I'd say that was probably very, very low in the past. Just running like four attack Whimsicott. Since Fake Out wasn't that good, but now we have Incineroar. So now we have like an insanely good Fake Out user that makes you kind of have to run Protect a lot. I think usually I will default to using Protect on Whimsicott. That's just kind of what I do. We just talked about Dracovish pretty much. You intimidated a bunch, and then, it's not going to be as oppressive. Excadrill can do a lot of damage. Dragapult does a lot of damage. Even if this thing is Scarfed, which it most likely will be, I mean, as we can see here, 56%, the clear majority is going to be Scarf, in which case you just Dragapult, you just attack it, you max Wormwind this thing, it's dead. Even if it would live, it would get -1 attacked, which, yeah, but it is dead. Like, and if it maxes to live, like, okay, you got a max Dracovish, good good. Like, we want that on your field. It's fine. Clefairy, PZ Clef, like I was saying, PZ Clef is kind of just a worse hyper offense. So I'm not really worried about that. I think Dragapult Togekiss just deals with that pretty well, which is good. Gyarados, kind of whatever. It's kind of just a worse offensive Pokemon than what we have. That's where I'm going to cut it off. I think, we'll briefly go over some of these. Rain with Magnezone and stuff could be cool, but it's not going to see much play. And if it does, we just win the Weather Wars, hopefully. So that's kind of how we play that game. Mugus is really strong in that matchup as well, which is good. Tailwind, I think, Talonflame's not going to be as used as Whimsicott, and we already explained that, but you pretty much do the same thing. You fake out. If it sets Psychic Terrain, whatever, they're not putting up that much pressure, it's probably fine. Mimikyu is whatever, Dragapult beats that most of the time. We also have Excadrill to do a lot of damage, so once you initially hit it, you just hit it really hard. After that, PZ we already talked about. Charizard we pretty much talked about because Sun. Indeedee Male, I don't even know what this is commonly going to be. Colossal, this is another big one. Colossal is a weird matchup, especially since, they're going to lead their own Dragapult. We're going to lead our own Dragapult a lot of the time. That's a 50-50. That's something that I'd want to avoid. If you can, you'd want to avoid. But I think that's really all you can do, because Surf Dragapult with Colossal is really good. Actually really good. And if they just attack, you can follow me and then do a lot of damage. But I want to run this calc real quick. So as you can see, we're not doing that much damage. So this is definitely a rough matchup. I mean, this is into 180 HP, but Dynamax Colossal. It's a low chance. We're not doing a lot of damage. 28 to 33. It's not that much damage. And it's just putting up so much damage. This, Colossal is what won the last Players' Cup, and for good reason. And that was in the same format as this format is going to be in Series 5. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a lot of pressure that they can put up immediately. And there's not much we can do. Yeah, I mean, there's just not really much you can do. You can kind of just, hope to win the 50-50, with Speed Tie with Dragapult. You attack Dragapult, max Airstream into their Dragapult, and then Dazzling Gleam with Togekiss. You win the 50-50. You go +1 speed. Your Togekiss now outspeeds their Dragapult, and then that's good. A lot of the time, the Colossal will open with Surf or Protect, and then do something else. Kind of throw a little bit of a mix-up there. That could be bad, But I think that's honestly the best you can do in that matchup is 50-50, hope you get there. If you don't, then it's a hard matchup. And that's really all I can say, is that it's going to be a hard matchup. That's definitely a hard matchup. So that's one that I wanted to shine light on. Colossal is definitely running down in usage stats, but with it winning the last Players' Cup, I think a lot of people would just default to use that. And yeah, for pretty good reason. Duraludon is a hard matchup as well. Outspeeding Togekiss. Not really, that didn't really matter. Yeah, Dragapult doesn't offer any kind of offense. If you lead Tyranitar Excadrill against it, that's a lot of offense against the Duraludon. But they go with Incineroar or even Arcanine, intimidate your boy, then yeah, or set up screens as we see here. Grimmsnarl is a very common partner with it. For good reason, it can fake tears, do a lot of damage, as well as setting up screens and absorb a lot of damage. So yeah, Duraludon's definitely a hard matchup. Hatterene, Psyspam, we talked about Psyspam. Rotom Wash is pretty good. Definitely. I think this is a Pokemon that without Rillaboom would be, top 10, top 20. We saw that in the past, but we do have Rillaboom. So, I don't think we have to worry too much about Rotom Wash. You kind of just want to intimidate this thing, but, or not intimidate, Spore. But it has Thunderbolt, and it's going to max a lot of the time. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to, beat it with a Mungus. Politoed, we talked about Rain. It's not that bad. We should win the Weather Wars. Dragapult deals with Kingdra really well, so we're pretty good. We're in an okay position against that. Comfy Lapras is kind of hard. Comfy Gudra, they're both kind of hard. We don't, we can hit really hard with any member of our team really, but yeah, it's not the best matchup. Now we're getting into stragglers. Trick Room we talked about. Amoonguss wins it a lot of the time. You intimidate this guy. It's starts to be a little useless. Sylveon's good. Gigalith, Dragalge. Yeah, we're getting into stragglers now. So we're not gonna talk about any more matchups. Let's talk about damage calcs for Incineroar real quick before we're gone. So Incineroar. Now this, oops. I hope that's still in the right place. It is. Neat. Okay. So damage calcs. Let's go ahead and move that back over here. As much out of the way as possible. So we have Incineroar here. It's not going to be Dynamax typically. 236 is a pretty common spread here for this. The most common spread that we've seen in a while is going to be 252 here. Let's do that. 28 and then 236 here. Now, of course, it can run a little bit of speed as well. Oops, that's 228. Yeah, this is a good spread because we Intimidate first, which is really strong. You know, making it so we don't need as much defense as we do special defense. It's getting really hot. I hope you guys can't see the sweat on my forehead. I'm starting to sweat a little. It's pretty musty in here. It's pretty hot. I don't have my fan on because it's super loud and it would be annoying for the video. Anyway, so this is a pretty common spread that you'll see. Why is it that common of a spread? Because it's good. It's really all I can say. I mean, look at this damage output from Dragapult. It's not that much. You know, obviously it's good. It's pretty good. Dragon Claw, it's a max Wormwind into our boy. Hit it pretty hard. That's about it for matchups. Let's fill out these spreads a little bit. We're just going to fill them out pretty much entirely here. I'm pretty far into the video, and I'm really tired. I'm doing this pretty late. So, Lash Out. You might see Burning Jealousy on this Pokemon too, which is really good. But we're just going to run Fake Out, Parting Shot here. Intimidati is very good. Item, probably a Pinch Berry. This is what we see the most common. This is a very common spread. 28, and then the rest here. And then we go for that Careful Nature, giving us plus special defense and minus special attack. A very special defensive Incineroar, since we Intimidate anyway. So we Intimidate, making us not that weak to the physical attackers, and then invest into our special defense pretty well. This can be a Dynamax Pokemon, believe it or not, as well, which is pretty cool. Not something you're going to Dynamax very frequently, mind you, on this team, but still something to be relevant. Here, I'm going to fill this out. Cobra Berry, Regenerator, or Spore, Rage Powder, an attack. This can be whatever. It can be Pollen Puff, which is good. Bring it in while one of these guys is Dynamaxed, and then you Pollen Puff, which is really good. Protect. We're going to leave it at Pollen Puff right now. Giga Drain is definitely a good option, though. Not Giga Drain. Energy Ball is a good option. Do a lot of damage. My voice is going away. Sludge Bomb could be good, too. Definitely. Now, here... Alright, let's run a couple of calcs real quick, just so that we can make sure that, we're not that bad with Amoonguss. So, Amoonguss, we're going to be running Cobra Berry, and then never going to Dynamax this Pokemon. This is a pretty common spread, I guess, 236, 76, 196. We're definitely going to be investing a bit into special defense. Let's go ahead and see exactly what we need for Togekiss. 252 special attack, and Timid Nature, doesn't really matter. Max Air Slash, even at a crit, it's not doing enough. Which is fine. It means that we're not taking that much damage here. And it doesn't do crit for max moves, but as you can see here, 42 to 49 leaves wiggle room. We're pretty safe from Togekiss, even if it hits a crit, which it will 50% of the time. Cobra Berry is definitely big. Our most threatening Pokemon typing is Flying right now, with a lot of Max Airstream Pokemon. Excuse me. Syndrase. I don't think there's any way to live this, which is unfortunate. Life Orb with Libero and Pyro Ball here, which we didn't need to do. Yeah, Max, it's not happening. Even if you, this is before investment, put 252 there, we're never going to live that. Even if we go max defense, bold nature, we can't live it. Impossible. So, Syndrase matchup is a little hard. Definitely. You can tech it to go after an Intimidate to live. That could be worth it, So we'll go back a little bit here. That could be a worthwhile calc to do. 196 here, that could be worth it. You know, max flare from this attack here, but it's not the Gmax attack, right? Doesn't Gmax do more? Yep, Gmax Fireball does a lot of damage. 160 base power. That's a lot of damage. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and tech that. Here, just hit 160 and not max. Boom, still doing a huge chunk. And now even if we max our defense, still a very slim chance. So we'll go ahead and set that up to live there. What was this, 196? But is that super relevant? We'll see. What other things do we need? Incineroar, Flare Blitz. We live pretty safely here, like very, very safely. What are the common spreads? Let's look at the common spreads for Amoonguss. Pretty specially defensive. Obviously we have Incineroar, so we can, you know, live pretty easily from that. I think we're gonna go ahead and tech it just to live the Flare Blitz here. All right, so this is actually very standard. 244 here. Take this last 8 from here. Oops. Pretty good. I'm gonna go with that as our calc here. So we live Incineroar Flare Blitz from 4 attacking points. Incineroar, which is good. I think that's what we're gonna go with. 244 HP, 76, 188. I like that. Calc I think is good. As you can tell, I'm very tired. I'm getting tired. So I'm gonna end this video here in one moment. What was that? I just said it. 76. And then the rest here. It's a sleepy. I'm sleepy. Sassy, 0 speed, slow boy. Because it's our answer to Trick Room as much as we can. It sucks. It's not a good answer to like Hatterene, but like I said, you know, boop, 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 like we're pretty okay from Slice Spam stuff. I like it. I think the team's good. Yeah, this is one of the teams that I'm going to be testing a lot throughout this week. Whoops. I played this team a lot. It's a very, very similar to what I've played in the past. So yeah, we're going to, you know, test it, work out a little bit of kinks. Like, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but maybe, you know, expect this. If you do want to see this team in some Pokemon Showdown play, comment it. Comment it down below that you want to see this. Or if you want to see me build a different Series 5 team, one that's not unbelievably standard. But this is not really so much a team build and battle. I guess it is, and I'm going to put it in the team build and battle playlist. But it's more of like a team explanation, an in-depth, deep delve into this team. So if this is the kind of videos that you want to see for Series 5, definitely comment that down below. Pretty much just comment what you want to see for Series 5, like for team prep or for prepping. Yeah, tell me what you want to see. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. They all mean a lot. Mostly the subscribe. That's the biggest one. So yeah, subscribe, like, comment. Also, join my Discord. Follow me on Twitter. Support the Patreon. Do all of those things. A lot of stuff coming up. A lot of big announcements. It's pretty important to be in the Discord, in my opinion. Right now, we have tournaments and stuff going on. It's a good playing grounds, good testing grounds, and also a great place to just, you know, bounce ideas. There's a casual place to chat if you are just getting into competitive, but if you've played competitive for a while, definitely, you know, do some talking in competitive chat on my Discord. Anyway, video's super long. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got something out of this. If this is a team that you're looking to play, and you have some tweaks, you want to change some stuff on this team, it's incredibly standard. So if you have any kind of ideas, comment them down below. Do all those stuff. Do everything that I just said in the last minute. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.